She noticed him the way you notice a shadow that moves wrong. Serafina Hale stood in the corner of Leonard Restaurant, Manhattan's most exclusive dining establishment, watching her boss charm Japanese investors at the corner table. But her eyes kept drifting toward the kitchen door, toward him, the dishwasher. 3 months she had been coming here every Thursday evening. 90 days of sitting in the same restaurant, ordering the same Americano she never finished. And for all those weeks, that man in the service uniform had never once looked at her. Not directly, not openly, but she felt it. The weight of his attention pressing against her skin like summer heat. The way his body seemed to know exactly where she stood, even when his eyes were fixed on crystal glasses and silver polish. He moved like water through the chaos of the kitchen, 6'2", shoulders too broad for the uniform that tried to contain them, hands that handled delicate stemware with surgical precision. There was something military in his posture, something dangerous in his stillness, something that made her heart beat faster every Thursday at 7 o'clock. 2 weeks ago, she had slipped on the stairs. A simple misstep, her heel catching on carpet. She was falling before she knew she was off balance. And then she wasn't. His hand had caught her elbow. Strong, warm, certain. He steadied her with the ease of someone who had caught falling things his entire life. Then he disappeared before she could turn around to thank him. She had stood there on that staircase, heart pounding, and when she finally looked toward the kitchen, he was already gone. As if he had never been there at all. Who was he? The question had kept her awake more nights than she wanted to admit. In 47 minutes, she would understand why that question mattered. 6 hours earlier, in a small Queens apartment, Declan Mercer stood at his kitchen stove, flipping pancakes while his daughter did homework at the table. The apartment was small, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, walls thin enough to hear Mrs. Kowalski's Polish soap operas next door. The furniture was secondhand. The carpet was worn. The windows needed new weather stripping that he kept meaning to install. But it was clean, safe, far from the world that had made him what he was. Every morning followed the same pattern. Up at 6, coffee while Wren still slept. Then pancakes, the one thing he could cook that made her smile the way Evangeline used to smile. The world that had taken Evangeline from him felt very far away in moments like this. The weight of 47 confirmed kills, the nightmares that still came some nights, the hands that had ended lives now carefully arranging chocolate chips into a smiley face. That was the point. Wren looked up from her multiplication tables. 8 years old, hair the color of summer wheat, chin stubborn as granite. She had her mother's eyes, her mother's smile, her mother's habit of tapping her fingers when she wanted to make a point. "Daddy, you always say you're just a dishwasher, but you're not just a dishwasher." She tapped her finger on the table. Once, twice. "You're my daddy, and my daddy is the best person in the whole world, so you don't get to say just anymore. Deal?" He looked at this tiny human who had somehow become the center of his universe. This child who carried her mother's light in a world that had tried so hard to extinguish his. "Deal, little bird." She grinned and attacked her pancakes with the enthusiasm of someone who had won a major negotiation. Declan watched her eat, memorizing the moment the way he memorized everything now. The way sunlight caught her hair, the way she hummed while she chewed, the small chocolate smear at the corner of her mouth that she wouldn't notice until he pointed it out. These were the things worth living for. These small, ordinary, precious things. 3 years ago, he had held Evangeline's hand in a hospital room that smelled of antiseptic and approaching death. She had been so thin by the end. Cancer had carved away everything except her spirit. And even that was flickering like a candle in wind. "You have to live, Declan. Not for me. For Wren." Her voice was a whisper, but her grip was iron. "I'm not afraid of dying. I'm only afraid she'll forget. The way I smelled. The way I held her. You have to keep those things alive for her. Promise me. I promise. And don't let what you were destroy what you could become. She needs a father, not a ghost. He had promised that too. 3 years later, washing dishes in a restaurant where millionaires ate meals that cost more than his monthly rent, he was still trying to figure out how to keep that promise while feeling like a ghost anyway. Maximilian Thorne stood in his 43rd floor office, staring out at Manhattan like a general, surveying a conquered kingdom. 45 years old, 2 failed marriages, 1 dead brother. $12 billion that couldn't buy back a single moment with any of them. The business world called him brilliant, ruthless, untouchable. They didn't see the hollow space behind his ribs where something human used to live. The door opened. Serafina entered with coffee, precisely 4 minutes before he knew he needed it. "Sir, today is the anniversary of your brother, 3 years." He went still. 847 employees in this building. Not one remembered except Serafina. "Would you like me to reschedule the dinner?" "No. Work helps me not think about it. You understand?" "Yes, sir. I understand." She did. He could see it in her eyes. The recognition of someone who had also learned to bury grief beneath productivity. At 7:47, 3 men walked into Leonard Restaurant. Declan saw them before anyone else. Coordinated movement, military spacing, right hands curved to conceal weapons, eyes sweeping the room in tactical formation. The target was Maximilian Thorne. Declan set down the glass he was polishing. His heart rate didn't change. 62 beats per minute. His body didn't know fear anymore. It only knew preparation. The first attacker grabbed Maximilian by his lapels. Serafina was shoved backward. Her head struck a table edge. Blood bloomed at her temple. Declan moved. No thought. No hesitation. Just muscle memory forged in sand and blood and darkness. First attacker, palm strike to the solar plexus, elbow to the temple, 1.2 seconds. Second attacker, slip inside the haymaker, pressure points with surgical precision, 1.4 seconds. Third attacker, foot sweep, arm control, head meets marble, 1.4 seconds. Total elapsed time, 4 seconds. 3 bodies on the floor, not dead, just sleeping. Declan stood among them, breathing normally, shirt still tucked. His eyes found Serafina's. She was staring at him with an expression he couldn't read. Not fear, not gratitude, recognition. As if she had finally found the answer to a question she had been asking for 3 months. After the police finished their questions, Serafina intercepted him at the kitchen exit. "You know my name," she said. Not a question. Serafina Hale, 33 years old, executive assistant to Maximilian Thorne for 4 years. You drink Americano, no sugar, with an extra shot on Mondays because you hate the start of the week. You rub your left wrist when you're stressed. You come here every Thursday, not for work, but because this is the last restaurant you visited with the man who left you. She couldn't breathe. "You've been watching me for 12 weeks?" "Yes." "Why?" Something shifted in his eyes, something that looked almost like pain. "I'm sorry. That was old habits. I didn't mean to intrude." "Why?" He didn't answer. Just looked at her for one more second, and that unreadable expression flickering across his features, then disappeared through the kitchen door. That night in his dark apartment, Declan sat with a wedding photo he usually kept face down in a drawer. Evangeline smiled up at him, forever frozen in white lace and hope. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I promised I wouldn't let anyone else in. But she—" His phone buzzed. Unknown number. The words glowed in the darkness. "Hello again, Sergeant Mercer. 6 years since Kabul. 47 civilians you saved. $2 million you cost me. Time to settle up. EV. EV Ezra Vance." The blood in his veins turned to ice. The video hit 15 million views in 18 hours. Ren found it at school. That afternoon, she was waiting at the door, tablet in hand. Daddy, this is you. Not a question, a statement. He knelt to her level. Yes, little bird. You're a superhero. You just pretend to be normal. I'm not a superhero, sweetheart. I'm just someone who learned how to help people. That's the definition, Daddy. Superheroes help people when nobody makes them. Case closed. He almost smiled. But this superhero needs you to promise something. If anyone strange comes near you, anywhere, tell me immediately. Ren studied his face with those two old eyes. There's a bad guy, isn't there? Someone looking for you. He couldn't lie to her. Maybe, I'm not sure yet. Then you have to be careful too, Daddy. Even superheroes need someone watching their back. Serafina found his address and came to the playground behind his apartment building. He was pushing Ren on a swing. You found me. I have resources. Ren jumped off the swing, eyes wide. Daddy, who's that? She's so pretty. Ren, this is Miss Serafina. Sarah, she corrected automatically. Call me Sarah. That's a pretty name. Sarah like seraph. Angels with 6 wings. Do you have wings? Just 2 arms, I'm afraid. That's okay. 2-armed angels are still angels. Serafina felt something crack in her chest. This child looking at her like she was something wonderful. I came to thank your daddy. He saved my life. Daddy saves everybody. Ren said it like stating the weather. Do you want to be his friend? Daddy doesn't have friends. He should have friends. They got ice cream at the corner shop. Ren ordered rainbow sprinkles with extra everything, chattering about dinosaurs and her theory that pigeons were government drones. At the bench, she announced with CEO authority, Miss Sarah has to come back. She's sad and we're sad and sad people should be together so they can be less sad. The logic was absurd and perfect. I think, Serafina said slowly, I would like that. In the days that followed, something shifted. Serafina came by after work. She helped Ren with homework while Declan cooked dinner. Simple things, ordinary things, things that felt like healing. Ren appointed herself their matchmaker with zero subtlety. Daddy, Miss Sarah should stay for dinner. She's too skinny. Daddy, Miss Sarah knows about dinosaurs. You don't know anything about dinosaurs. Daddy, Miss Sarah laughs at your jokes. Nobody laughs at your jokes. Serafina hummed Motown when she was stressed. Declan pretended not to notice. He caught her dozing at his kitchen table once and draped a blanket over her shoulders. She pretended she hadn't felt him do it. 2 weeks later, a bullet came through Maximilian's office window. He was reaching for coffee Serafina had made 2 minutes late, for no reason she could explain except a feeling. The bullet missed his head by 3 inches. The message carved on the rooftop door. This isn't over. Ashford remembers. Declan stood in the emergency conference room. Professional shooter, 400 meters, gone in 90 seconds. Someone's running serious resources. Vincent Drago, head of security, stood near the door. We've checked every Ashford connection. Nothing. Something wrong there. Too relaxed for a man who just failed catastrophically. The shooter knew exactly when and where Thorne would be standing. That's inside information. Maximilian stood. Mr. Mercer, I need your help. I don't want your money. Then what do you want? Access to everything. No restrictions. And when I say run, everyone runs. That night, Declan reviewed the restaurant footage again. The second attacker, just before going down. 2 fingers touching his temple, then pointing outward. Delta Squadron signal. Target confirmed. They had known he was there from the beginning. He called Tony Castellano, CIA. I need everything on Ezra Vance. Vance went dark 6 months ago. Took a contract in New York. Big money. He insisted on handling it personally. Said he had unfinished business. Does he know about my daughter? The pause lasted too long. Name, school, address, everything. I'm sorry, Deck. The phone nearly cracked in his grip, but he didn't run. Running was playing Vance's game. He would end this, his way. On day 14, a photograph appeared in Serafina's car. Ren walking to school. Telephoto lens. Red X over her face. Message. Tell Mercer she's next unless he surrenders in 48 hours. Serafina ran to Declan's office, hands shaking. For the first time, she saw fear on his face. Raw, naked, paralyzing. Ren. Her name came out broken. My little girl. Serafina took his trembling hands. We're going to protect her. Why are you here? Why do you care? Because for 12 weeks you looked at me like I was a person, not an assistant, not a broken engagement. Just me. She squeezed his hands. Now it's my turn. Let me help you protect what matters most. Something cracked in his expression, a wall coming down, a door opening. When this is over, he said, voice rough, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to say yes. The plan was brutal in execution. Leak false information about a board meeting at Thorne's Westchester estate. Let Vance think he'd found the perfect opportunity. Transform 40 acres into a kill zone. But first, Ren had to be safe. Declan drove her to Trenton, to Mrs. Kowalski's sister's home. At the door, Ren wrapped her arms around his neck and held on like she was trying to memorize him. You have to promise you'll come back. The real kind of promise. The kind you can't break. I promise, Ren. Pinky promise. They linked little fingers. Sacred oath. She pulled something from her pocket. A small origami bird. I made this. It's a wren. Like my name. Wrens are tiny, but they fly really fast. If you need to run, it'll help. I'm not running anymore, sweetheart. I know. She smiled, wise beyond her years. Because now you have a reason to stay. Miss Sarah is like an anchor. She keeps you here. He kissed her forehead. How did you get so smart? Mommy's genes. You just got the pancake genes. Night fell on the Westchester estate like a shroud. 7 figures moved through the forest at 2 a.m., leading them, Ezra Vance. 7 targets, Vance on point. Declan spoke into his earpiece. Sarah, get Max to the safe room. Password, Evangeline. Come back to me. He stepped into the darkness where violence waited. The first 2 never knew he was there. Controlled strikes, unconscious, not dead. The third shouted before the chokehold took him. Gunfire erupted. The estate became a maze of shadows and blood. 4 and 5 flanked through the east corridor. Declan killed the lights and waited. In pitch blackness, against enemies he could hear, but they couldn't see. The outcome was certain. 6 carried a shotgun. Declan's knife found his thigh. Then there was only 1. Ezra Vance stood beneath the chandelier, smiling with bloody teeth. Mercer, 6 years I've waited for this. You could have walked away. You destroyed me. Kabul, $2 million. All because you wanted to save worthless civilians. They were women and children. They were collateral. And after tonight, so was your daughter. Declan attacked with fury he hadn't felt in years. They crashed through furniture, shattered glass, painted marble with blood. Vance was trained, experienced, driven by hatred. But Declan had something more powerful. He had a reason to live. The fight went wrong. Vance landed on top, knife descending toward his chest. Declan caught the blade with his forearm, felt it scrape bone. In that moment of agony, he saw Ren's face, heard her voice. The kind of promise you can't break. The origami bird in his breast pocket, over his heart. He was not allowed to lose. With strength born of desperation, he reversed, mounted, struck. Vance's head met marble, unconscious, but breathing. Declan sat there, chest heaving. He had kept his promise. No killing. Not anymore. Sarah, it's done. Password, Evangeline. The safe room door opened, but it wasn't Serafina who stepped out. Vincent Drago stood there, gun pressed to Maximilian's head, Serafina bound behind them. Impressive, Mercer. 7 men, alone. You're the mole. Theodore Ashford was my uncle. He raised me after my parents died, gave me everything. And this man took it all. In the chair, Serafina worked her fingernails against the rope, the way Declan had taught her. The rope parted. She kicked Drago's knee. He stumbled. Declan moved. One step, one strike. Drago fell. Justice came in a federal courtroom 6 days later. Ezra Vance, conspiracy to commit murder, threatening a minor child, guilty on all counts, 25 years, no possibility of parole. The gavel fell like thunder. Vance turned as guards approached. Their eyes met across the courtroom. This isn't over, Mercer. Declan leaned forward with absolute certainty. Yes, it is. Behind them, Wren whispered loudly to Mrs. Kowalski, the bad man is going away forever. That's what happens when you mess with families. Vincent Drago received 15 years. His last words to Maximilian, your money can't buy peace of mind. You're right, Max answered, but actions can earn it. The press conference drew 200 reporters. Maximilian stood without notes. I could claim victimhood, but Theodore Ashford was also a victim of my ambition, of my indifference. His voice cracked. I didn't push him off a ledge, but I didn't give him any reason to keep living. Effective immediately, Thorne Industries establishes the Ashford Foundation, $50 million to support family businesses, not to buy forgiveness. Because it's right. He looked into the cameras. Theodore, if you can hear me, I'm sorry, and I will spend the rest of my life trying to prove that apology means something. 1 week later, Serafina found Declan at the playground. Wren jumped off the swing. I have something important to say. They listened. I've been thinking about families. At school, my friends have regular families. Same blood, same names. But sometimes they're mean to each other. Sometimes they leave. She took a breath. We're not like that. Nobody here shares blood except Daddy and me. But we chose each other. Grandpa Max chose us instead of his empty house. Mommy Sarah chose to stay when she could have walked away. Daddy chose to stop hiding and let people love him. She pointed at her own chest. And I chose all of you. Not because I had to. Because I wanted to. Because when I look at us, I see my real family. The kind you build on purpose, not by accident. Tears flowed freely now. Blood families are just luck. But us? We're brave. Every single day we choose each other, and that's not luck. She looked around at them, 8 years old and wise as mountains. That's love. Declan pulled her close. How did you get so wise, little bird? I watched. I watched Mommy Sarah love you when you tried to push her away. I watched Grandpa Max choose us over being alone. I watched you stop being invisible. She pulled back, face fierce with certainty. Family isn't about blood, Daddy. It's about who stays. And we all stayed. That night on the fire escape, Serafina said, when Marcus left, I promised never to let anyone close enough to hurt me again. You didn't knock on my walls. You just stood outside, patiently, for 3 months. I was afraid that if I felt something, I would lose it, like I lost Evangeline. And now? Now I know invisible isn't safe. It's just lonely. He took her hands. You saw me, the darkness and damage, and you stayed. He pulled out a small box, silver band, single sapphire. This isn't Evangeline's ring. This is yours. You're not a replacement. You're a new chapter. She laughed through tears. Wren helped you write that. She's a good consultant. Yes, it's always been yes. From the moment you caught me on those stairs. 1 year later, they sat at Leonard Restaurant. Declan in a navy suit, Serafina as his wife. Ren, now 9, explaining to Maximilian why Spinosaurus was bigger than T-Rex. Marketing, she informed him. T-Rex had better PR. Max laughed, a real laugh. The laugh of a man who had found family. Ren set down her fork. I have an announcement. We're a family. Daddy, Mommy Sarah, Grandpa Max, Grandma Kowalski, me, and soon, baby. Serafina nearly choked. Ren! What? I heard you telling Daddy. My room is just really close to yours. Max raised his glass. To the newest member of this impossible, wonderful, chosen family. 4 glasses clinked together. Wine, whiskey, sparkling cider, water for the mother-to-be. To family. Outside, Manhattan hummed its eternal song. Inside, 4 people sat in a circle of light, bound not by blood but by choice. Declan looked at his wife, his daughter, his friend. Family isn't blood, he thought. Family is the people who see your darkness and still believe you deserve light. The people who stay when they could run. The people who choose you every single day. He had spent so long being invisible. Now finally he was seen, and that was the only thing that had ever mattered. The end word count, 4,127 words.